question for you now. It's complete right turn, or actually kind of like a steering right turn. Would you like to drive an electric car, but you are put off by the lack of charging points anywhere in Northern Ireland, all around the place? A survey by the Department of Infrastructure has found that a growing number of people here would like to, or would consider buying an electric vehicle, maybe a hybrid or a full electric vehicle. And by the way, you can read all about this on the BBC News NI website. But there are warnings that demand for public charging points in Northern Ireland is, to put it mildly, outstripping supply. In fact, we are at the bottom of the league for available charging points. I went on to the NI Direct website this morning just to have a look. They have an interactive map there where you can click on the different charging points across Northern Ireland and just see how many there are and where they are. And the map goes in to street level. 337 public charging points currently across Northern Ireland. These are owned and operated by the Electricity Supply Board. The Electricity Supply Board also owns and runs Northern Ireland Electricity. So that's the organisation around the infrastructure. If you drive a hybrid right now, or if you drive an electric car, Jimmy, tell me your experience. What is it like for you to get charged? Do you have a charger at home? If you don't have a charger at home, that can be quite expensive, incidentally. You don't have a charger at home. Where do you go? Where do you find these things? Mark McCall is with us, Chair of the Electric Vehicle Association. How are you doing, Mark? Good to have you with us.
Good afternoon, William.
We are at the bottom of the league.
Yes, unfortunately so. For the last 6 years or so since our organisation formed, we've watched very little happen, unfortunately, in Northern Ireland. Ironically, we probably had one of the best networks early doors in 2011 whenever those ESB chargers rolled out. But unfortunately, there's been a lack of growth or maintenance in that network. We'll have to balance that by saying that in the last quarter of last year, we saw rapid charger numbers double in Northern Ireland. So that's the good news. There is a much more positive direction of travel now. So we've gone from around 22 rapid chargers to 43, 44 at the moment. So after years of really nothing happening, there is at last some good news.
Let's have a word with Mark, who's in Fermanagh. Mark got in touch with us after I put a tweet out about this. How you doing, Mark?
Hello, William. Hi.
What kind of car, first of all? Is it full electric or hybrid?
I have a plug-in hybrid.
You get the plug-in. I've got one of those myself. Tell me your experience in Fermanagh.
Well, the experience I have is that I installed an electric vehicle charger at the house, which is first class, costs about £500. And my understanding is there is a grant available of up to £350. I didn't avail of that, but it's for people to know. But for a plug-in hybrid, as you probably know if you have one, is that to get the best use out of them, to maximise the amount of non-fuel that you use, they only have a range of about 20-25 miles on the battery. So when I travel to a town like Enniskillen, which is 12 miles away from where I live, I would avail of charging points if they were available. Now, there are 5 approximately that I know of in Enniskillen, which is a pretty decent-sized provincial town. And I do want to point out that when you do get one that's available, they're in public car parking spaces. And yes, you do pay the car park fee, of course, but the ESB currently does charge them, and there's zero charge for zero cost for the charging, which is excellent, of course, although I believe that may be reviewed. But the singular problem is that they are invariably not working. So although 5 doubles, that's 10, would be...
Because you can plug two cars, you can plug 2 cars in at the same time, at the same point, one either side. Yeah, go ahead.
Correct. So, I mean, but that's not a lot for a town of, 15,000 people. And secondly, they're invariably not working. And the person that I am, one Sunday morning when it was quiet, just out of interest, I drove round all 5 and one of the 10 was operational. One of the 10 was operational, and I would go as far as to say that my sense is that the vast majority of the time they are not operating. And that just, for somebody that's travelling to the area, that would be relying and is using a full electric car, They simply cannot rely on finding a charging point.
The problem that I have, Mark, is not that they're not operational, is that the ones that I keep looking for, and I've got a little app that tells me where they are and if they're being used or available at the minute, they're always being used. There's always a car there.
Yes, and that of course is, so there's the two problems. There's the double whammy that there probably aren't enough places, points, but I increasingly just find that there are no cars there simply because see the red light, there's red or green. So it's a huge problem, I think, particularly for people coming to the area.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Mark, calling us there from Fermanagh. Damien Maguire is with us. Damien's the Managing Director of TC Autos in Omagh, and Thomas O'Hagan's here too, Chief Commercial Officer and one of the founders of Weave, which is a private company installing electric car charging points. Thomas, can I come to you first of all? We just heard from Mark there about a possible grant if you have a charger installed at your home. Is that still the case?
It's not the case for everyone. I think it's the funding schemes changed there. With if you still rent your home or if you're in a shared apartment style, there's grants available. But if you own your own home now, those grants are no longer available.
What's the what's on average? I mean, obviously there's no typical, I guess, but what's the average kind of cost of fitting your own charging point in the back garden or something like that?
It's in the region of £1,000, I would say, today.
Really, that much? Yeah. Is there much of an uptake?
Yeah, well, I suppose the uptake of home charging, I think Mark McCall from Ivani there, I think they sort of state 83% of charging is done at home, but it's really the public network is where our main focus is.
Is it very expensive to charge at home?
Again, that'll depend on your energy provider. I think obviously the government incentives at the moment are helping out with the charging at home, and people would move to overnight rates, and they would, I'm sure, shop around to get the best price.
David in Antrim here says, I'm unable to come on the radio, but I drive an electric vehicle and there are 4 EV or electric vehicle charge points within 30 minutes walk of my house, and I can set an alert to tell me when one of them is available. I drive the 4 minutes to the charger, I plug it in, I walk home. It's a great way to exercise. I don't leave my car any longer than it takes to charge, but I'm seeing more and more cars being left overnight. So frustrating, he says. I was in Portrush at the weekend and I took the diesel car as the infrastructure cannot be trusted. That's David there. Yeah, that is annoying if people are using the charging points as basically a parking area. Damien, how much uptake is there for, the plug-in hybrids, the full electrics these days?
Hi, William. Look, there's certainly a lot more interest in EVs in the last few years compared to, we've had EVs with Renault Zoe for the last 10 years. And there's certainly a lot more interest in recent times. But just in relation to the charging infrastructure, I think we're in danger of getting very obsessed about that. There was a statement there earlier on about 83% of charging done at home. I would think that probably would be higher if the charging points weren't free. So there's a chicken and egg scenario here. There's not enough EVs on the road for private companies to come in and put more charging points in. You need the cars on the road for that to be worthwhile for them. But people then don't want to get an EV because there's not enough charge points. But what I would say to people, probably higher than 83% of your charging will be done at home, probably 90-something%. And, every morning you get into your car, most of these cars now can do somewhere in the region of 200 in the winter and maybe 250, 260 in the summertime. So, if you take the average journey for most people in Northern Ireland going to work every day and back 20, 30 mile round trip or something like that, there's more than enough charging every morning when you get into your car. Yeah. Look, granted,
it can be. We had a friend the other day who drove up from Dublin and drove back again on one charge in the electric car.
Yeah, and I've done that in an electric car. I've driven to Belfast. I'm in Omagh here. I've driven to Belfast numerous times in an electric car there and back. But, that's only up and down the meeting or something like that. There's a serious problem with the infrastructure in Northern Ireland. We do lag behind the rest of GB and the Republic as well. There's no doubt about that. But we believe that's going to change over the next 12 months, 18 months, quite a lot. For example, most of the councils, all the councils in Northern Ireland are putting in additional charge points. There's something like 19 new charge points, so that's 38 actual charge points really, because there's 2 to each point.
Where is that happening?
In Enniskillen and the Omagh Council, Fermanagh and Omagh Council. So every council is the same, but also the same, Belfast is the same, etc., etc. So that's another 38 charge points going in. I've spoken to a lady who's dealing with that in the council down here. That's supposed to start this year. She also said, look, the existing network, which was put in free 10 years ago, and the problem with that is there's no revenue coming in there, so there's no money to maintain and provide a proper service there. Now, ESB has taken it over. They're supposed to be reconditioning those charge points or replacing them with new ones. So in addition to for example, in Fermanagh Council or Fermanagh Omagh Council, the 19 charge points coming in, the existing infrastructure, which is probably a similar figure, will all be reconditioned. Yeah. And the sooner we start charging people for using these charge points, the better. That will stop people from hogging the charge points. There'll also be a system whereby if you do hog the charge points, you'll have an overstay charge. That's happening down south in the Republic already. So people won't hog charge points. What do you want people to do is charge at home overnight and use the charge points for occasional charging, where you probably pay 2 to 3 times what you'll pay when you're charging at home overnight.
All right. Let me read out this text from Darryl in Cash. He says, my energy supplier told me that charging electric cars at home is as expensive as running a hot tub at home, and garages should give a warning when selling electric cars of the cost of the charge. Mark McCall, is that accurate?
No, it's not. And I think you have to be wary of social media and always look, when you're doing your research in these things, look for experience rather than opinion. I mean, we survey our members every year, and last year, 88% said that it's likely their next car will be another EV. I think just 1.6% said definitely not. So
generally speaking, when people make the jump to EV, they stay there, don't they? Yeah.
And regarding the cost at home, I mean, I think as Thomas mentioned there, we're actually seeing government support for electricity at home. So you don't have support on your petrol or diesel car. If you can charge at home at night at the moment, you're probably paying something like 1.7 pence per mile, as opposed to maybe 16 to 20 pence for petrol or diesel. So it's extraordinarily inexpensive to run an EV at the moment. The caveat to that is that not everyone can charge at home, and we're seeing a divide definitely emerge between those that can charge at home and those that can't.
That's
and
interesting.
DFI tell us that maybe as many, I think around a fifth of Northern Ireland does not have off-street parking, rising to 60% for Belfast and other urban areas. So that's a challenge that we definitely need to address.
It's very interesting you say that, because I have to say, I had heard the same thing that, who mentioned that? Darryl, I'd heard the same thing you said, that, charging on the streets, cheap, charging at home can be like, double your electric bill. But you're saying absolutely not true, Mark.
Absolutely not. No, from personal experience, it's very, very inexpensive. As I say, if you can park off street and you can avail of one of the nighttime rates at the moment, the Economy 7 rates, it's very affordable.
Very good, interesting. Judith is in Dundonald. Welcome, Judith.
Hello.
You want to comment on the electric points as well, or the electric charging stations? Go ahead.
Yes, it was just following a conversation we had at the weekend. I've just got one put in my house, and we were for my brand new hybrid plug-in.
Oh, get your new plug-in hybrid.
Lovely car. I'm very happy with it. But we were just having a conversation with friends, and they were saying, what is the protocol, the etiquette, if you have a friend, a guest come to stay and they say, can I charge my car and you're electric? Because they wouldn't ask you, do you mind paying for my petrol? So, but it sort of seems a bit sort of mean.
Well, apparently it's very cheap. Is that your experience?
Well, I've only got it a week.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, Mark here says it's very inexpensive.
Well, that's what I'm hearing, and maybe
Oh, we lost Judith. Somebody's cut her off. 81771. Be like Judith. Pick up the phone. 03030 80 55 55. I live in Fermanagh, says this text, and have an all electric car. Even in Belfast, very few available charges, and Fermanagh, the only fast charger is approximately 3 miles outside Enniskillen. We should comment on this difference between chargers, Mark, and fast chargers. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so rapid chargers, I guess, are what a lot of us are looking for as EV drivers, especially when we're on a journey. Maybe you live in Newry and you've gone to Portrush for the day. You might need a quick charge to get you home. So those rapid chargers that can do a meaningful top-up in 20 or 30 minutes are the ones that most of us are looking for. So the other type of charger is a destination or AC charger, something where you're going to have a long dwell time. You're at the cinema or at a restaurant or hotel or something, and you can plug in for several hours.
This listener is concerned about the risk of fire from electric cars and then the resultant inability to deal with the fire quickly. It needs to be sorted before the deployment of charging points throughout Northern Ireland. Well, when the deployment of charging points is going out and it's continuing to go out. But anyone want to comment on it? Damien, can you comment on that? The risk of fire?
Yeah. I mean, that was something probably we asked very early doors around electric cars back 10 years ago. These cars are tested really a lot with regards to this crash test, etc. If you think about this, if you come down from space and somebody said hop into that machine over there, it's got a tank of very highly flammable fuel in the back of it called petrol. Would you not think the same thing? So manufacturers, they try and produce ultra safe cars, and that's what they do. So I wouldn't worry about that. But could I come back just on another point?
Briefly, please, go ahead.
Just briefly, with regards to grants. We don't have a grant for the actual EVs in this country anymore. In Germany today, there's still €4,500. In France, there's €5,000. The government, there's a carrot and stick approach to this. You can give people a grant to get into an electric car, or you can use a stick, things like congestion charges in cities, and that'll probably come here. It's coming in Scotland 2024. It'll probably come.
Manchester's getting their congestion charge next year too.
That's coming. So I think our government raises revenue from that. So surely they can take that revenue and put it back into the grants to get people in, because we need a critical amount of EVs in the road for private companies to come in and put in more and more charge points. But listen, it's charge at home. That's my message.
And then that makes them commercially more available, of course.
Yeah.
Colin,
it is changing. The charging network is coming. It is coming. It's going to take a wee bit more time, but it is coming.
Colin asks here, I think he's a question. What powers the electric? If everyone is driving on electric, it has to be powered by something, coal or gas or some fossil fuel, he's asking. Who would like to answer that philosophical question? Mark?
Go ahead. So Northern Ireland is roughly 49% renewables already. And the Climate Act that came in last year sets a target for 80% by 2030. So we're already halfway there. And we've an extraordinary amount of wind energy in this country, so much so that we switch off the turbines at night here quite often. So that's definitely not an issue.
Jerry's on the line. Are you in your car? I hope you're not driving at the minute, Jerry.
No, I pulled over on the lay-by. I'm hands-free anyway.
Good man. What would you like to say?
Well, William, I drive an electric vehicle and have done for the last 14 or 15 months. And I have to say, it's a lovely car, very comfortable, all mod cons, very smart, much smarter than I am. However, I would go back to my internal combustion engine car in a heartbeat, because if you stay around home, I have a home charger, and you're not doing long distances, it is absolutely grand. But if you have to, for instance, say, drive to Belfast and back again, then you're stuck. You have to find a charger, and I have found myself in very stressful situations with maybe 2 or 3 miles of charge just left on the car.
Yeah.
I'm desperately trying to find a charger, which is off. Somebody was saying earlier on, a lot of the charging points are not working, and so therefore you have to go quite a distance off track, the journey that you're travelling, to find a charging point that's actually working. Whereas if you're filling up on diesel or petrol, well, it's only a few miles down the road. The other thing is that people need to be careful about the range that cars are supposed to have. The range of my car is supposed to be 267. Effectively, it's about 165, because if you're running everything off it, it depends. In winter, obviously, you get less because you've got more electrical stuff working.
And you don't want it to run down to 2 miles left, right? That's okay, perhaps, if you've got a petrol car, because you'll probably find a petrol station a couple of miles ahead, but that's not the case with these kind of cars. Are you sorry you didn't get a hybrid now?
I'm kind of sorry I didn't stick with the car I had, which was diesel, and I wanted to make my contribution to the climate, but I really, I find that you set the stress against, the benefits of the climate. I have to say, I would like to do away with the stress.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jerry, and happy driving. Just don't let it get down too far. If you're 50 miles away from running out of your electric charge, you need to start thinking at that point about getting it charged up again. On the subject of charging points in Northern Ireland, this text says the one in the Diamond in Derry is not available because of pedestrian seating areas. There you are. John's on the line from Belfast. Hello, John.
Hello, William. William, mind you, just a very quick question.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about putting these chargers onto main roads. Where is that going to put, like the Falls Road, where it has the glider on it, and the Antrim Road, where they're going to put the glider on it? It's going to be an absolute nightmare, I would imagine.
Well, you wouldn't want to be putting them on main thoroughfares that need to be moving all the time. But at a certain point of the day, Mark, there is a certain policy, isn't there, for where they put them? The kind of places that people might want to go shopping for 2 hours or 3 hours and then come back to the car, Mark.
Yes, I guess motorway services, things like that on our main arterial routes are the first places that we want to put these, but not on main roads, certainly, although there are schemes out there to try and put them into residential areas without off-street parking. So I think there's 124 new chargers coming from the council consortium that'll be fitted this year. That'll help people charge on street where they can't park off street. So yeah, we have to be careful where we put them. We have to be cognizant of people on the pavements as well and keep the pavements clear as well. But yeah, I think all this stuff has been asked and answered. If you look at places like Norway, where 80% of new car sales are full EV now, the answers are all out there. We just need to get a move on. And
when do you think we'll get to that point?
Well, if this ZEV mandate comes in, the government are looking at figures now at the moment, that would put, if it comes into law this year, I think next year dealers will have to sell 22% full battery electric vehicles. The year after that, 28%, and so on up to 2030. So it'll all happen quite quickly.
Thomas, you still there?
Yes.
Thomas, I've got somebody here who's got one of these home-fitted chargers for less than 500 quid.
He's done well there. Again, our focus from
Are you
a
up for a
wave
bit of haggling?
is...
I guess I'm asking. Are you up for a bit of haggling?
Well, as I said, our focus is actually the public charging network, and that's where we are focusing our efforts, is building that infrastructure that was talked about and needed. So that's really our focus. Again, we'll support customers where they need to get home chargers, but again, our focus is purely on the
well done.
The public
you
network.
Handled that like a politician, Thomas. You should be an MLA. Fantastic. Thomas O'Hagan from Weave, that's WEEV. The company installing some of those, one of the companies. Damien Maguire from TC Autos and OMA, thank you, Damien. And from the Electric Vehicle Association in Northern Ireland, Mark McCall. Let's get the news now. It's 1 o'clock.